Hello everyone and welcome to my ABCGH Spoilers channel. ABC's General Hospital suggests a dark and ruinous turn for Willow as whispers grow louder that she may have killed Kai after he uncovered a secret so explosive it hovered to destroy everything she has fought to cover. For months, Willow has plotted to maintain her fragile sense of stability, balancing her part as a devoted mama and her complicated romantic snares while trying to keep her once buried. But secrets in Port Charles no way stay retired for long, and Kai's unforeseen consummation that Willow had been hiding commodity monumental set off a chain response no bone could have prognosticated. According to interposers, Kai stumbled upon inarguable evidence that Willow had been manipulating events behind the scenes, conceivably tied to a long-stewing deception involving Michael and Drew, and formerly he brazened her. The situation entwined out of control. What began as a tense argument reportedly escalated into a heated emotional showdown at the Cordham Gatehouse, with allegations flying and pitfalls hanging heavy in the air. Kai, furious and feeling betrayed, allegedly advised Willow that he'd expose her to everyone. Michael, Carly, indeed Nina, forcing her precisely constructed world to come crashing down. For Willow, who has formerly endured public scrutiny, illness, and emotional trauma, the study of losing her children and the man she loves may have pushed her to the point. Sources tease that in a moment of fear and despair, Willow made a split alternate decision that changed everything. Whether it was an impulsive push during a struggle or a calculated move to silence him permanently remains unclear, but the fate is inarguable. Kai was set up breathless, and Willow was the last person seen with him. As investigators begin making together the timeline, inconsistencies in Willow's story have raised red flags. She claims she left Kai alive and draped, but surveillance footage from a near property reportedly places her at the scene far longer than she admitted. Meanwhile, Michael is torn between standing by the woman he loves and defying the possibility that she's able of commodity unbelievable. Carly, fiercely defensive of her son, senses there's further to the story and begins digging into Kai's final hours, determined to uncover the verity before the police do. Na, whose complicated bond with Willow has been tested time and again, finds herself scuffling with guilt, wondering if her own once miscalculations ever contributed to Willow's unraveling. The pressure builds as Detective Chase starts asking pointed questions and whispers ripple through the sanitarium corridors, turning associates into disbelievers and musketeers into silent judges. Willow's formerly sterling character begins to fracture as subtle suggestions crop: a mysterious bruise on her wrist, a hastily deleted voicemail from Kai, and a cryptic textbook communication intimating that he'd evidence of her treason. Some presume that Kai's discovery may have been linked to fiscal disagreement involving Drew's business dealings, while others believe it ties back to a deeper, more particular taradiddle, conceivably concerning the true maternity of a child or a secret alliance meant to cover herself from an old adversary. Whatever the verity, Kai's death has come the catalyst for a plot that promises courtroom drama, emotional competitions, and shocking admissions. As the net tightens around her, Willow's chest grows decreasingly erratic. She switches out at Na, breaks down in Michael's arms, and indeed considers fleeing Port Charles altogether. Yet running would only confirm reservations, and she knows it. In classic General Hospital fashion, alliances shift fleetly. Carly confronts Willow in a blistering exchange, demanding honesty, while Drew begins to question whether his trust was lost. Meanwhile, an anonymous tip transferred to the PCPD suggests there may have been another person present the night Kai failed, opening the door to the possibility that Willow is either covering for someone or being framed. Could this be the work of a rival seeking vengeance? Or did Willow truly cross a line she can no way uncross? As necropsy results allude at blunt force trauma inconsistent with a simple fall, the stakes rise, indeed advanced. The emotional weight of the plot rests heavily on Willow's internal conflict. Is she a hopeless woman who made a woeful mistake? Or has grief and sweat converted her into someone able of murder? Suckers are divided, with some defending her as a victim of circumstance and others condemning her alleged conduct as insupportable. The brewing question remains whether Michael will stand by her if the substantiation becomes inviting, or if he'll prioritize justice over love. In the coming weeks, observers can anticipate explosive exposures, tearful courtroom evidence, and maybe indeed a surprise substantiation who changes everything. One thing is certain: Port Charles will no way be the same. However, the consequences will ripple far beyond her own life, affecting the Cains if Willow did kill Kai to cover her secret. And if she did, also someone is orchestrating an elaborate scheme to ensure she takes the fall. Either way, the fallout promises to be one of the most absorbing bends in recent General Hospital history, reminding cult why the show continues to allure with its mix of love, treason, and high-stakes drama. As the disquisition into Kai's shocking death intensifies, the emotional temperature in Port Charles climbs to an unsupportable degree, and the ripple goods stretch far beyond Willow's immediate circle. The fallout touches every major family, every sanitarium corridor discussion, and every rumored exchange at the Metro Court as the possibility that Willow could be responsible forces long-buried pressures to the face. At the center of the storm stands Willow herself, visited, protective, and decreasingly insulated. Those closest to her begin noticing subtle but intimidating changes. She startles fluently, loses track of exchanges, and seems constantly on edge, as if staying for the coming knock on the door to be the police arriving with bind. Her formerly calm and compassionate address fractures under pressure, revealing flashes of wrathfulness and despair that indeed Michael struggles to fate. Michael finds himself trapped in an insolvable position. His heart tells him to cover Willow at all costs, but the mounting substantiation chips down at his certainty. Phone records confirm Kai communicated Willow constantly in the hours leading up to his death. A neighbor reports hearing raised voices. A partial point on a broken ornamental object near the scene matches Willow's. While none of its definitive evidence, together, it forms a disking narrative. Michael's internal battle becomes one of the most compelling rudiments of the unfolding drama. Does fidelity to the woman he loves outweigh the troubling dubitation that she may have crossed the line? Meanwhile, Carly refuses to remain unresistant. Fiercely defensive of her son and grandchildren, she launches her own resemblant disquisition. Tapping into old connections and pressing for answers the PCPD hasn't yet uncovered. Carly's instincts tell her commodity about the timeline does add up. Why would Willow stay at the gatehouse so long after the argument allegedly ended? Why did Kai shoot that final cryptic communication about exposing everything tonight? Carly begins to suspect that whatever Kai discovered was into minor solecism. It was disastrous. The nature of Willow's secret becomes the central riddle driving the plot. Some propositions point to fiscal misconduct tied to Drew's business gambles, suggesting Willow may have tampered with documents to cover someone she loves. Others presume that the verity is far more particular, maybe involving the maternity of a child or a medical cover-up connected to her time at the sanitarium. The nebulosity keeps observers guessing, but what remains clear is that Kai believed the secret was important enough to shatter multiple lives. Na's response adds another emotional subcast. Formerly burdened by her complicated history with Willow, Nina feels an inviting sense of responsibility. She wonders if her own once manipulations and simulated relationship with Willow created the perfect storm that led to this tragedy. Determined not to let Willow face this alone, Nina offers support, but her presence only deepens the pressure. Willow alternates between gratefulness and resentment. Doubtful whether Nina's involvement is genuine or tone-nerving. Their fragile bond teeters on the edge of collapse as secrets hang to widen the gulf between them. At the PCPD, Detective Chase approaches the case with professional neutrality, but the particular connections make it anything but simple. He interviews Willow with careful perfection, noting inconsistencies in her statements. The necropsy reveals that Kai suffered blunt force trauma to the reverse of the head. Injuries inconsistent with a simple fall. The angle of impact suggests a struggle. This disclosure sends shockwaves through the community and intensifies speculation. However, did she fear during a battle that turned violent, or is someone manipulating the substantiation to frame her? If Willow didn't intend to kill Kai, Drew's part in the unfolding chaos becomes decreasingly suspicious. His response to Kai's death seems measured, maybe too measured. When brazened with questions about his recent business dealings, he deflects adroitly, steering exchanges down from specifics. Carly begins to wonder if Drew has further at stake than he's letting on. Could Kai have uncovered commodity that intertwined Drew, forcing Willow into an insolvable position? If so, was she acting alone or guarding someone she believes she owes? As days turn into weeks, the media catches wind of the reproach. Captions question whether a reputed nanny and devoted mama could harbor similar darkness. The public scrutiny weighs heavily on Willow, who feels the walls closing in. Her children become the center of her fear. The study of losing guardianship or watching them grow up believing their mama is the killer terrifies her further than captivity ever could. These fears drive her to consider drastic measures. Hiring a high-profile defense attorney, destroying implicit substantiation, indeed meaning fleeing Port Charles under the cover of night. But just when it seems the case against Willow is solidifying, a stunner twist shakes the foundation of the disquisition. An anonymous envelope arrives at the PCPD containing a flash drive with partial security footage from a near property. The course videotape shows a shadowy figure approaching the gatehouse after Willow's contended departure. The timestamp aligns nearly with the estimated time of death. The figure's identity remains obscured, but the bare possibility that someone differently was present introduces reasonable mistrustfulness. Michael seizes on this development as evidence that Willow may be innocent. Carly remains conservative, pointing out that the footage doesn't exculpate her entirely. It only complicates the narrative. Meanwhile, Detective Chase digs deeper, uncovering substantiation that Kai had been conducting his own disquisition into several residers of Port Charles, not just Willow. His notes reveal names, dates, and cryptic references to corruption and treason. It becomes clear that Kai may have been playing a dangerous game, hanging to expose multiple secrets at formerly. The plot evolves into a layered whodunit with nearly every major character falling under dubitation. Was Kai silenced because of what he knew about Drew's fiscal dealings? Did an old adversary see an occasion to frame Willow and settle a score? Or did the battle between Willow and Kai truly helical out of control in a woeful moment of fear? Each new indication raises as numerous questions as it answers. Emotionally, Willow begins unraveling under the weight of query. In private moments, she renewals the battle in her mind, visited by fractions of memory. Kai's criminating tone, the crash of an object hitting the bottom, the look of shock on his face. The nebulosity of her recollection leaves room for mistrustfulness indeed within herself. Did she push him harder than she intended? Did she leave him vulnerable, ignorant that he'd fall and strike his head? The cerebral risk is immense, creating a portrayal of a woman teetering between innocence and guilt. The courtroom phase looms on the horizon as prosecutors weigh whether to press formal charges. Public opinion splits down the middle. Some see Willow as a woeful figure, caught in circumstances beyond her control. Others view her as calculating and dangerous. The pressure reaches fever pitch when a crucial substantiation comes forward claiming to have seen Willow arguing with Kai before that evening. Under cross-examination, still inconsistencies in the substantiation's account cast mistrustfulness on their trustability. In true cleaner pieces fashion, just as the narrative appears to be settling into a straightforward legal battle, another shocking twist emerges. Forensic analysis reveals traces of an alternate person's DNA at the scene unconnected to Willow or Kai. The discovery reopens every possibility and sends investigators back to square one. The disclosure not only casts dubitation on other implicit suspects but also hints at a deeper conspiracy as alliance shift and trueness inch near to the face. One theme dominates the bow: the destructive power of secrets. Whether Willow killed Kai or is being framed, the tragedy stems from retired trueness and the fear of exposure. The plot underscores how despair can push indeed the most compassionate individualities toward unrecoverable opinions. In the end, the fate of Willow and the true circumstances of Kai's death remain shrouded in query. But one thing is inarguable. The fallout has irrevocably altered the geography of Port Charles. Connections have been tested, commitments strained, and reports spoiled. As observers brace for the coming disclosure, the saga promises indeed further twists, heartache, and dramatic competitions. Because in Port Charles, no secret stays buried ever. And the verity, when it eventually emerges, will change everything. The pressure in Port Charles reaches a breaking point as the layers girding Kai's death continue to unravel, pushing every character connected to Willow into decreasingly precarious positions. What began as a rumored blameworthiness has converted into a full-scale emotional and legal extremity, and the cerebral strain on Willow is getting insolvable to ignore. Sleep eludes her. She jolts awake from agonies of that night. Kai's voice echoing in her mind, criminating her of falsehoods and treason, demanding she confess before he exposes everything. The fractions of memory feel deficient, distorted by fear and adrenaline, and that query becomes her topmost torment. The further she tries to move herself that she left him alive, the further mistrustfulness creeps in. Michael too begins to fracture under the weight of divided commitment. He watches Willow precisely now, searching her expressions for signs of deception or hidden guilt. He hates himself for indeed questioning her, but the stakes are too high to ignore reality. When prosecutors formally advertise they're considering manslaughter charges pending further review of forensic substantiation, Michael's world tilts. He hires one of the most redoubtable defense attorneys in the state, determined to shield Willow from what could come a ruinous trial. Yet indeed, as he fights for her intimately, he asks the question, neither of them wants to defy what exactly did Kai discover. Carly's instincts remain razor-sharp. She senses that the secret at the heart of this chaos is bigger than a simple romantic treason or fiscal distinction. Her independent disquisition uncovers commodity nipping. Kai had listed a meeting with an investigative intelligencer the morning after his death. The journalist confirms Kai claimed to have explosive evidence involving a prominent Port Charles figure and a long-running deception. He no way showed up to deliver it. That disclosure sends Carly down a darker path of suspicion. However, also someone had every reason to silence him permanently if Kai intended to go public. Meanwhile, Drew's jest grows decreasingly guarded. He insists he has nothing to hide. Yet, he avoids direct answers when pressed about his recent dealings. Subtle cracks appear in his countenance when brazen with Kai's notes, which include vague references to commercial laundering and medical falsification. Though nothing explicitly names Drew, the counter-accusations are unsettling. Some begin to wonder whether Willow's battle with Kai was lower about particular exposure and further about guarding someone differently from ruin. At the PCPD, the case takes another dramatic turn when enhanced analysis of the anonymous security footage reveals identifying detail about the shadowy alternate figure. A unique watch glinting under the veranda light. It's a small indication, but enough to constrict the suspect pool. The discovery ignites enterprise that Kai may have been meeting someone differently entirely, someone whose identity could reframe the entire narrative. Willow's legal platoon seizes on this development, arguing that the presence of another existent at the time of death introduces significant reasonable mistrustfulness. Public opinion continues to sway like a pendulum. Some residers rally around Willow, believing her gentle character and history of adaptability make the blameworthiness inconceivable. Others brood that stress and despair can transfigure anyone. The sanitarium becomes an uncomfortable battleground of hushed exchanges and sidelong ganders. Willow takes a leave of absence. Unfit to endure the scrutiny. Her absence only energizes enterprise, but she knows staying would only consolidate the gossip. Emotionally insulated, Willow finds herself reflecting on every decision that led her. Then she renewals her argument with Kai in excruciating detail. He'd been grim, signaling substantiation in her face, hanging to destroy everything she erected. She remembers grabbing his arm, contending with him to review. She remembers wrathfulness flashing in his eyes, and also chaos, a struggle, a stumble, the sound of commodity shattering. But the critical moment remains blurred as though her mind refuses to completely reuse it. That missing piece of memory becomes the haunting gap that could determine her fate. Na's involvement deepens when she uncovers an astounding possibility Kai may have been manipulated into defying Willow. Phone records reveal an anonymous number feeding him information in the weeks leading up to his death. The timing suggests someone orchestrated the battle deliberately. However, also Kai's death may have been the or maybe intended consequence of a larger scheme if that's true. Na shares this proposition with Carly, and though the two infrequently align, they agree on one thing. Someone differently may be pulling the strings. As prosecutors deliberate, a grand jury is convened to determine whether sufficient substantiation exists to charge Willow. The suspension is suffocating. Michael stands by her side as she enters the courthouse. Cameras flashing, journalists crying questions. She maintains her countenance intimately, but inside she's unraveling. The possibility of captivity, of losing her children, of ever being ingrained, a killer looms over her like a storm. Paul also comes another stunner. Forensic testing on the unidentified DNA reveals a partial match to a known associate of important Port Charles family, someone with a documented history of compulsion and cover-ups. The disclosure explodes through the community, shifting jubilation down from Willow and onto a new implicit suspect. Yet, the substantiation remains particular, and the execution argues that Willow's battle still places her at the center of the tragedy.